For me, this office is part of my life's experience. I grew up in the north suburbs of Evanston, Illinois, where my dad was executive director of a social service agency. Mom was a teacher. They instilled values. Went away to college on the East Coast, came back and attended University of Illinois College of Dentistry. And instead of opening an office in Evanston where I grew up, I opened an office in 63rd and Cottage Grove. That's the Woodlawn community of Chicago, where the majority of my patients were children who needed dental care, children who'd not see somebody like me, and by the way, it was the right thing to do. As a businessman, you start to understand state payments do depend on access to care. If the state pays in a normalized fashion, predictable fashion, then you can provide greater dental services. Your lights aren't going to wait, 90, 180 days for payment. Your front desk person certainly isn't going to wait that long. And so you know that that is a direct relationship because most of my patients were children on public assistance. I opened a second practice in Dalton, Illinois, and ran for state representative in 2000 against a Chicago-backed machine. You guys around the State House know the Shaw Brothers. And beat their guy by 29 votes. Over 11,000 casted. I ran for 3 reasons. One was education funding reform. I got sick and tired of politicians talking about we need to look at the system, tweak the system, do whatever to the system. And I wanted the schools where I represent in the south suburbs to be on par with Evanston and New Trier where I attended. Second was payday loan reform. There were more payday loan stores up and down Sibley Boulevard and in the state of Illinois than any other business that were hurting people instead of protecting them when they should. Third was jobs in economic and transportation. I arguably represent some of the most challenging communities in Illinois, including Fort Heights and Harvey and others, where economics or companies trying to locate to these communities become very difficult because of the tax base with Indiana and also in Will County, which is cheaper. And so after the last 10 years, or over this past 10 years, I've been the chief sponsor of the Education Funding Reform Bill to deal with some of our structural problems. I'm the chief sponsor of the Payday Loan Reform Act, which was tweaked this last session, but that regulated a very difficult industry. And worked through the transit rewrite with former Representative Hamos and others to have transportation and jobs and tried to live within the tools that we have state to help offer. So my background as a dentist who actually went in an underserved area, my background as a legislator getting something accomplished opens into this office of controller. As controller, I like to see, first and foremost, who sat through a budget process as former chairman of higher education appropriations, that our budget needs to be online, transparent, and interactive. It needs to be online because currently we have a 400-page document. And if you wanted to know how much the dean of the College of Engineering at University of Illinois makes, you don't know whether it's under higher education budget, under a line item, or where it is. And so I envision that the state's budget should be similar to your computer screen. When you click on higher education, click. You click on University of Illinois, click. On the folder, you click on College of Engineering, click. You click on salaries, click, and there it is. It should be just that simple to follow through the maze so you know. Or if you want to know all the appropriations of University of Illinois, for instance, whether it's dental school, engineering school, college of nursing, whatever, you can find that out by just clicking. Right now, it could go under higher education appropriation. It could be a member initiative. You don't know which money came through the federal, for federal match as engineering or research dollars do. And so to have that transparency, I think, is very important. The interactive part, I think, becomes very, very important because you can get creative solutions from folks who are everyday citizens or newspapers or whatever to try to come up with some solutions. As you know, when we delay pension payments, it's an exponential curve as we pay it down. But you really don't want to know the effects of it and be able to sort of tool around with it to know what happens to our state pressures if you do delay or have the retirement age moved up a year. And so these things are very, very interactive, very creative, and to know that every day you don't pay provider is $14 million what the state budget gets, but if you don't pay providers after a certain point, they don't participate. So that interrelationship of all state payments, as I described, needs to be online, needs to be transparent, needs to be in simple language so folks can get a real grasp on exactly what our state's budget. Inversely, issue of jobs. As I said I represent Fort Heights, one of the most economically challenged communities here in Illinois, where a company was trying to locate because of the transit system, the transportation system. Now, Fort Heights cannot offer TIFs. TIFs take away from their libraries, which is non-existent in Fort Heights, and also our schools, which are very poor. So what can you do? You can say if there's a company that wants to locate here and you do state business, guess what? We're going to cut through the red tape. We're going to streamline your payments through to help you out a little bit to get up and going. This is something the Small Business Administration does with loan products, is I got one opening my business. And so this is something I believe the state can do. Inversely, it can penalize. If those companies that come here to Illinois and try to circumvent our prevailing wage law, our procurement laws that we passed, then you can hit them in the pocketbook and say, look, you're not doing right. Heinz did that when Blagojevich circumvented the General Assembly to buy prescription medication from Canada. And so you do have the power of the purse to do that. So you have the power of the purse of transparency. You have a matter of trying to create jobs by help streamlining payments. And in this difficult time, we want to be able to prioritize those frontline providers that used to be able to get a line of credit to withstand cyclic flows in a normal cycle, can't do it now. So stories I've heard downstate here of folks traveling miles and scheduling an appointment months in ahead for a dental appointment for a special needs child. And so if that provider who does accept a lower payment, for payment, if they go under or delay, then that exasperates a very difficult situation. Some providers trying to do the right thing, treating a special needs person, and if they go under, then what good is that? So for these cases. So my life's experience has brought all of this together in terms of how we need to handle our finances. Our state will rebound. Our state will rebound at some point or another, and when that happens, the last thing we need to do is be in these structural problems that face us now. I've argued the fact that we need to have, as revenues increase, this money proportionated to a lockbox. And have special indicators. So, for instance, the tobacco settlement funds, where the attorney generals in 13 states agreed that cigarettes are bad, and that the industry tried to say they weren't as bad. But anyway, all these states received a pocket of money. What the General Assembly did was use it for member initiative projects, and this is under Ryan's administration, use it for all kind of willy-nilly projects. As a dentist, as a healthcare provider, and just the right thing to do, I think the most important thing is that we should have used them for oral carcinoma, breast and cervical cancer screening, things that really related to healthcare. And particularly now, we could have used it in those providers who are frontline providers to help with their cash flow situations, which they're going through very difficult times now, to tap into it to say, we're going to help you stay afloat here. The problem is all this is, once again, is in a mystery. That's why you need the transparency to be able to follow the dollars down, understand that these monies, and then once you do that, you can have transparency and open government to say, look, we think this money should go towards health care relief. You got a better argument, you got a stronger argument, and you can help folks in a time of crisis. And the last point is in terms of contracting and reducing government itself. I believe in having open contracts. Heinz has an open look on his website. Open look is a good first step. However, if you punch Miller, for instance, you'll be given all the names that says Miller in contributions and Miller in terms of contracts. But you don't know what was inside that contract. You don't know really the value of the contract. So the point is, if you got the contract online, particularly with today's technology in a PDF file, then you can say, look, I make widgets. That contract looks a little suspicious. The contract looks a little high. Or maybe be able to explain it. Or maybe I can beat the price. So these things in which, like the higher education system goes through bulk purchasing, you're the person who's writing the check. You could say, look, well, if we do bulk purchasing with widgets through Health and Human Services or Human Services or education or whatever, then you got, once again, the power of group buying to do something about it. So these are some of the creative ideals that I believe I bring to the Office of Comptroller. I clearly have hopefully a lot of energy to do it. I think if anything now, my business background as a businessman, as a dentist, a healthcare provider, I'm not a career politician. I have no clouds of scandal against me. I believe that for me, this is a great opportunity as our state bounces back to understand what it is to provide services, frontline services, what they are going through in real dollars today, being able to accomplish things on both sides of the aisle. This is what I bring to the ticket. This is what I offer to the citizens of the state of Illinois.